Hello friends, hope you are well. We are back to our regular programming. Welcome to this week's report of the Dirt, aka Dirt Report, taking telco news from all around Australia and some international tidbits. Hopefully on time, though, as I write this all down, not knowing what could happen next, well, my camera might fail again. The SD card keeps failing. So no one knows what will happen when this video comes out, but I hope you all recovered from the Microsoft service crash in the last few days. Teams going offline does not help anyone at all in a business. Also, I saw some articles popping up about NBN Co buying 55,961 kilometers of copper, and I would have included this story in here, but I have not been able to find a source to confirm this amount. If it was recent or it's still the same number from last year, just cropping up again in mainstream media. Because back in June 2020, we had confirmed numbers of 50,000 kilometers of copper bought too. Do let me know if you find any details. In any case, we have some great stories for you today, and it'll be a short episode, hopefully. Today we have cable.co.uk's report on broadband speeds. ATO could go facial recognition. On the international side, we have Facebook, wrist technology, and lastly, paying for Twitter. What could that be all about? Make sure to like this video if you did and subscribe or join to support us. Let's roll the intro. It's not often we get to compare our country's internet to the rest of the world, and it's certainly interesting to see where we sit. Cable is a UK-based website that offers comparisons between all sorts of services from mobile, TV to broadband. So we're going to have a look at their latest worldwide broadband pricing comparison. There are a couple of key takeaways from this which we'll look at later on, but one thing I want to mention is that price is very relative to the wealth of the country. You will soon see why. I would prefer to see the relative pricing to income because I believe it would really show how stupidly expensive internet in Australia really is. Nonetheless, let's jump in. Ukraine and Syria have the cheapest broadband. Strange, as both have been war-torn. Sure, one more than the other, and relatively speaking, earnings are not similar either. Russia and Bhutan came at 3 and 4. After all, you would hope Russia's internet is cheap with all the hacking they have to do. Overall, global broadband speeds are accelerating by around 20% annually, and average price of broadband packages hasn't fallen in those last 12 months. And this is rather unusual, though it has been a rather strange year with the human malware pandemic. The report says that if pricing was measured from 2017, it has gotten cheaper globally. However, certain individual countries have gone up. The idea is that telcos can't charge what their users cannot pay, but apparently some can. Typically, providers are upgrading or improving their networks to run faster and more efficiently. Pricing has therefore, in many cases, particularly those at the more expensive end, fallen as these countries have the most room to offer better services more cheaply than they once did. The most expensive broadband falls to many of the third world countries. Mauritania at $1,368 USD, Ghana $1,412, Comoros $1,520 per month, Laos is $4,213 per month, and Eritrea is $15,000 per month. Eritrea is a Northeast African country on the Red Sea coast. It shares borders with Ethiopia, Sudan, and Djibouti. The expense comes from a combination of political climate, warfare, and of course of extremely low take-up. Now, as a bonus stat, the New Zealand Commerce Commission compares Australia and New Zealand in its annual telecommunications monitoring report for download speeds, touting that Kiwis are enjoying a download speed of 67 megabits a second on average, while Australians are holding the fort down at about 26 megabits a second on average. New Zealand, USA, Norway, Japan, and even Spain are all above the OECD average, while we are well below. However, one thing we can be happy about is our mobile services in Australia are some of the most affordable in the world. So back onto that cable report, here's what they had to say about this year's findings. For the first time since taking these yearly measurements, the average cost of broadband packages globally hasn't fallen. Whether or not this is related to the pandemic or other destabilizing global events is a matter for further study. However, we have seen a substantial number of countries upgrading their infrastructure in the last 12 months, with available speeds of 1 gigabits becoming increasingly common. As in previous years, however, the countries with slow, patchy broadband infrastructure that supplies only a fraction of the populations tend to be the most expensive, and the growth in terms of available speeds either slow or non-existent. Link to all these reports is below, so let me know your thoughts. Let's jump into our next topic. $10 million, a 3-year contract, and we have ourselves a facial recognition algorithm in the MyGov app. Sort of. They could have just used Apple's Face ID, but they didn't because that's just too easy. I'm joking. I'm seriously joking. So let's talk about the companies iProv will be doing with the ATO. First of all, what is this for? Well, the technology will enable the MyGov ID app to be more than just the portal to submit your 100 points of identification. It will become the digital equivalent of that, meaning you will no longer have to get multiple documents together to achieve the same outcome. It will be obviously easier and quicker, and actually probably more secure and ultimately very trustworthy for the other side. A big part of the tech is the liveness detection component, which sits at the heart of enabling this process. Ultimately, this will allow you, me and Dupree to perform the proof of live test. This test allows the government to confirm with high confidence your claimed identity digitally, using the government's trusted digitally identified framework, which is used to protect government services that tend to be targeted for serious fraud. By confirming your identity proof level 3, aka IP3, via the MyGov ID app, you'll be able to access your personal government services at the highest level, hence the ATO. It is expected the technology will become live and used by 2021, or at least in beta testing, but fully integrated across all services in Australia by 2025. And I have to say, for a government agency, this is very quick. Identity has always been a difficult problem to solve, and the timings of this gives me hope for the technological prowess of our government. So let's hope the NBN can keep up. On the other side, the 6 months it took for our government to decide on a vendor is very impressive from a sales lead time point of view for a $10 million deal. Well done, iProv. Also, as mentioned a few months ago, Australia has the highest level of automation and digital access to government services in the world. So overall, this is fantastic news. So let me know your conspiracy theories, if they're going to be talked about in the coming years over this specific tech. Let's wave goodbye to our shores and sail into the international waters of tech news. And while you get your raft ready, make sure to smash the like button and subscribe. So let's jump into our international tidbits. Facebook is looking for more creative outlets than just selling your data to advertisers. That endeavor is well and truly a well-oiled machine. So what else could they be doing? Well, they started down the road of buying VR companies and then destroying them. So why not continue down that path? This week, Facebook revealed a new AR toy, but it might not be a toy. It could be something more than that. By the way, VR is virtual reality, which we all know, but AR is augmented reality. It's an interactive experience of real-world environments where the object that resides in the real world is enhanced by computer-generated perceptual information, sometimes across multiple sensory modulations, including visual, auditory, haptic, and semitory and olfactory. Please, no laughing. Here is what the article says, links below of course. In 2019, Facebook acquired a neural input tech company, Control Labs, which developed an armband to sense neural signals. Facebook plans to build this wrist-based tech that can sense individual motor neurons. According to the company, it can convert finger motions and even small squeezes and shifts into actions that animate virtual hands. It looks like what tracking already does in the Oculus Quest VR headset, but in this case, it can work without moving your fingers at all, just using your mind. That's where things could get really strange and fascinating. Facebook's shown aspect of its neutral input tech before, and demos of how finger typing on a desk could eventually adapt into custom keyboards that learn and improve, almost like phone-based touch and swipe keyboards do. But the tech could work even without moving any fingers, or without even having fingers. So the good old wrist will get some tech, finally. Speaking of finally, let's go to our last topic. Twitter. While Twitter itself exists to propagate cancel culture, Twitter wants to give you a chance to not get cancelled too quick. A new feature has been found to let you delete tweets you have tweeted, but only for a limited time and only if you have a special subscription to Twitter. The undo button also appears to double as a progress bar, showing you how long you have to undo a tweet before it gets sent, as reported by The Verge in the links below. Now, Twitter is also considering features like super follows, which will let you follow a creator or a publisher for a monthly subscription fee and get exclusive content or newsletters, kind of like join button on YouTube, and it's going to be a subscription inception. So things aren't going well for users of Silicon Valley tech. We'll probably end up forking out more money, especially after Netflix is making it hard to share passwords. And now Twitter potentially having a paid subscription. What's next? Well, what is next is the end of this episode. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure to like this video if you did and subscribe if you'd like to see more. Thanks for watching. Catch you all in another one.